Coffee with Mo. You're on the couch with Mo for Coffee and Convo. And this evening we have a special guest, my very, very good friend, Herbert Wilkerson. Wilkerson. It's not an easy last name. Wilkerson. And Herb has been in the field of mental health for years, as a direct care staff, as a manager, coordinator, supervisor, and now as of late, he is working at UAB, and he is like the man on campus, and he helps students facilitate their lives while going through college. So, without further ado, I give to you my friend Herb. Welcome.
Hey.
So Herb is on the couch.
I'm on the couch.
He's on the couch.
What's going on?
A lot is going on.
It's good to be here.
It's good to have you here.
Yeah.
So, what's new?
What's new?
You got an award recently.
Got a couple of awards actually, and
okay.
Which is to touch on that. It took my wife, one of my mentors, and my supervisor at work to really make me accept the fact that I was getting these awards and be okay with it and not feel weird about it.
Why? Why would you feel weird?
Because I never, and you know me, I don't.
So humble.
I don't clout chase.
Yeah.
And you know, doing what we do, we see a lot of people who do that. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be like lumped into that.
Right.
And so I was just kind of deflecting in some ways, but when those moments came, it was good to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And the first of which, the award for working with the B-Men on campus, which is a male mentoring network at UAB's campus for Black men. I do a lot of work with them, and a lot of that is self-guided, mm-hmm. Making connections and developing friendships with the people that, you know, over the program, and then developing relationships with the students. Mm-hmm. And so that award was really special because it was just purely about just going and doing the work and creating the connection, and then working with students as they come in year after year. Mm-hmm. And so in my bio, which is funny because I don't like bios, it's funny hearing about yourself, so I sent like 3 to 5 sentences in for my bio, like really brief.
And somebody added to it.
Oh man, my boy Chris added about 10, 15 sentences to it.
Yes.
And my cousin Dana was like, you know, we see our lives in sentences, but other people see it in paragraphs.
Oh, that's good.
Like, yeah, that was good. I was like, whoa. And but in that bio, which is something I really live by, is that I understand that my role as a counselor, as a Black man, mm-hmm. working with other Black male students and students in general, mm-hmm. but my role is more than just like counseling client.
Right.
It's mentor, it's cool uncle, it's father figure, it's older cousin, it's dude from the neighborhood, mm-hmm. like, because a lot of times those connections, you don't necessarily have them. Even if you do got a good male figure, you don't have that kind of bond yet.
Right.
And so they may say the same thing I say, but it can land different when I say it.
Right.
Just because of the role I'm in.
Right.
And so after the event was over, one of the guys came up to me who I've been seeing for a while in counseling, was like, yo, you are, as I heard your bio and you talked about the roles you play, I said, like, you've really been a father to me.
Oh, wow.
And me in the moment kind of like, oh yeah, man, cool. You know, he was like, no, listen.
Like, cause you don't let that just settle in.
He was like, no, listen. He was like, man, the last few semesters have been tough, and like, but you've been there mm-hmm. at every step, and it's non-judgmental, and it's accepting. And I was like, I was telling somebody about that later on, and that's the why. Mm. Like, that was as cool, if not cooler, than the award itself.
Right.
And so, and then the other award is a group that we started called the Black Experience, which is about having a space for Black students to talk about their experience of being a student at a PWI, mm-hmm. predominantly white institute, and conversations where it's a men's group and a women's group. There's only Black people in it. Mm-hmm. And as you know, one white person can change the entire dynamic of a conversation. Mm-hmm. And not even if not intended to, it's just the presence.
Right.
And so, you know, that was the award for the next group. We started that group from scratch. Like, it didn't exist beforehand. We started it. The students really got behind it, and it grew. and it made impact. And we were recommended for that award and got it as a diversity champion on campus.
Wow.
And so it was a big month, and passing the NCE.
Hey, give me some. I'm trying to tell you. So you are a licensed professional
counselor. Wait for that thing to come in the mail, man, and it's a wrap.
It's like a big thing. It's a big thing. Like you just can't be out here just winging it. Like when you get that LPC, then it's just like you did it.
And kudos to you because, like, I had a lot of jobs that they didn't care. They wasn't pushing that. You got like 1 or 2 people on staff that reviewed, treatment plans, and that was it. When I got to ACS with y'all, and it was like, I'm looking at people my age and younger than me that all got LPCs, and I'm like, well, hold up.
Right.
And y'all asking me, like, what you
doing?
LPC?
Yeah, I'm like, what you doing? When you take this test?
And so that definitely planted the seed, and I had to overcome a lot of my own insecurities because I'm not a great test taker.
Yeah.
I mean, that was proven horribly in my ACT scores. And
I just hate that so much is weighed on these tests. Like,
yeah, because I mean, it becomes and people will slot you and identify you as good or not good based on certain things. I knew I was a good counselor, but I also feel like I overcompensated, over at times because I didn't have that.
Right.
And and when I took the test, man, I ain't been to school in 13 years, so it was like.
So you work that thing out.
But
you do it every day. Like you don't realize a lot of stuff on the test. It's very like.
It was applications based. No,
yes.
I'm waiting so long to do this. I do this every day. Like.
Yes.
I kept waiting for like somebody to ask about some old white man to discover something in 1918, and I'm like, I ain't gonna know that, but it was applications based, and it's like as soon as that happened, it was just like, you know what?
Yeah.
Breathe.
Yeah.
And it is a sense of validation, but at the same time, it's not. I also know that doesn't define me.
Absolutely.
Right? I didn't become a better counselor the day after I passed the test.
You just got some letters behind your name. To say to everybody else, I have these credentials.
And they matter.
Yeah, they do. But matter. You have people with the credentials and they are horrible.
Trash.
Horrible.
I know a lot of trash.
Oh, I learned that from my kids. Trash. That's the word.
Trash.
Just trash.
I know a lot of them.
Trash.
I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, you've seen it.
People in the helping field aren't always there to help.
Nope.
And levels of education don't change that.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't care how many letters you have behind your name, you can really do damage to a person if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. And so another thing I always say when I do bios is like, it's not about me. It's like my mantra.
Right.
It's not about me. It's about the people I work with. And I try to always be authentic and genuine with that. And when I find myself like leaning too much in one direction, I have to check myself.
One thing about it, I find that people think that based on our professions, we're supposed to just know stuff. We're supposed to just be able to feel and just, work through stuff. Like, I think people forget that we are human first. Like, I'm a woman first with feelings. And I hate when people say, oh, well, you're a counselor, you should know this. Like, that has nothing to do with my feelings.
Yeah.
And I feel like people just hold us to an expectation like we're not supposed to feel.
Yeah. I think a lot of times when I'm having conversations with people and I'm like, I'm in the pocket and we have some good conversation, I'm thinking, man, if I follow half this advice,
you be awesome.
Yeah, and it's not even advice. It's just like, what about, we suggesting stuff and we coming up with stuff, and it's like, and then I even say like, and I'd be great if I followed all this too. So just so you know, it's not, I got all the answers.
Right.
And being authentic about that and transparent, because you can sit down with me and be like, all right, fix me. I'm like, well, I don't have the magic bag, so let's rethink this conversation.
Because you have had to be my shoulder to cry on many days. Because people don't see me as vulnerable or like I have feelings sometimes. Like I don't think, because I do have a tough exterior because I'm like in the fix it mode or I'm just trying to get stuff done. But like at the end of the day, I have moments too where I cry, where I'm upset, where I'm disappointed because I'm my own worst critic. And I don't trust those feelings with everybody. Like you are one of the few people that I can just be vulnerable with. And I think everybody needs that. It's necessary. And I don't think if I had that, I don't think I could be good at what I do if I didn't have somebody to just be vulnerable with.
And it goes back and forth because it's one thing to like have people in your life in general. But it's important to have people that do what you do. That can speak to it from an angle that most people can't.
Right.
And And so, like, I can think of a lot of great friends and family members that I have, but we can't have like conversations about the difficulties of counseling or working with clients or
right.
having boundaries or the spillage from like life to like work and work to life and our own personal struggles and whatnot. And then also when you're good at counseling, you're good at keeping people away from
you. Isn't that the truth?
Dude. Dude.
And something my mama said to me that really kind of resonated with me, and I'm like, because when I counsel people, especially women, dealing with situations that are toxic, men, relationships, and I'm like, I don't, we don't tell them per se to get out, unless it's abuse or something like that. But put things in a perspective where they have to look at themselves differently. But my mom always said, she said, there was a situation happened with my brother, and she was like, well, Monique, everybody's not strong like you and able to get up and just leave like you did. And everybody just can't do that. And then I said, well, you know what? When I talk to people about peace, they can't understand it because they haven't had it.
Yeah.
So once you've like had a certain level of peace, you don't let anybody disrupt it. But when you don't know what it looks like, it's so easy to stay where you are and keep dealing with the dysfunction and the hurt and the pain because you don't know what the other side is.
It becomes normalized.
It becomes normalized.
Yeah, and the other side, like every situation has like the other side.
The other side.
But it's so much fear attached to what is over there.
Yes.
And when you're used to something, it's like, well, I'm used to this. And I learn how to navigate this.
Yes, no matter what crazy it is.
So I can numb my emotions when I need to.
Yep.
I can find external release when I need to. I can find coping tools. I can distract myself at work. I can do all kinds of things.
Right.
But then, like, the other side of that is like, it's so much like, what if?
Right.
What if I'm alone? What if it doesn't work out? What if I go back? What if I tried to leave before it didn't work?
Right.
Or I've been in several relationships like this.
Right.
Or the messaging I've always received is that this is what you're going to get.
Yeah. Or it's not that bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
I'm like, compared to what?
Yeah. Like, what your bad is and what my bad is.
Right. It's not the same. And I think that's probably my biggest frustration is that people look at my situation and they're like, oh, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Like what are you comparing to? You don't have to be in a relationship where you're always being beat up, verbally or physically, to be like, this is not good for me.
Yeah. And two good people can be together and not be meant to be together.
Yes.
I think that's like people look at it like it's an either or.
Like somebody did something wrong.
Yeah, and it's who messed it up.
Right.
And sometimes it just doesn't mesh, and it probably did mesh for a while. We just ignore stuff.
Right. And they make those red flags be orange, or they be all other colors but red.
Yeah.
Just to get through. And then when you're with somebody, and that's that people that's like, oh well, he changed or she changed. We're supposed to. And that's a problem sometimes because people change and they go apart. Yeah. And sometimes people change and they go together.
Me and my wife had this conversation, and we've been married almost 12 years now. And
kudos.
Yeah, I know, right? And kudos to her because I'm not easy to be married to. On the outside in, it seems like, oh man.
That's what people think. Oh, it's such a dude. He's such this dude. I said, live with him. Dude. I said, when you live with somebody, it's a whole different beast.
And so, one thing about it is that you got to love the person at each phase.
Yes.
And because they're, when you're young and you meet, it's a different vibe than when you're married and you've got finances involved and somebody loses a job or something like that. You got to love them then. And then you have kids and you see that baby come out of somebody and it's like, Lord, I love them then. And so, and then you experience different life challenges, man, that, put pressure on marriage. I mean,
yes.
And you know me, I've experienced a lot of loss, and you know what loss feels like too.
Yeah. And
like all the significant loss that I've experienced has happened since we've been married. Starting, my mom passed away like 2.5 months after we got married, and it's been like a consistent thing. And so, I have my moods and my swings, and times I don't even realize it, but she's aware of it, you know. And so, it's a constant challenge, And I'm thankful that we're still in it, And there are situations where it's like, you know, we're good, but we're not good together, and that's just the best option.
Yeah. I don't know. I think this is kind of like, it's kind of two sides, and maybe you can help me shed or somebody else shed light on this. Like when I talk about peace, and I tell people all the time, if you come home and you don't have peace at home, like you don't have peace anywhere. And so because I know what that feels like, anytime that I meet someone and it feels like they're about to disrupt that, I am so quick to like detach. Like I can go from oh my god, it's awesome to I don't know, I ain't talking to no more.
But you know, they also would be like a reaction based on like previous bad experiences. And so the moment you get like an inkling of that, the safety walls go up. Yeah. And it's like it's peace.
Yes, my friends want to tell me that I have no tolerance. Yeah. They tell me that they tell me I have no tolerance.
I know you.
So I'm like, is it real that I don't have tolerance, or is it real that I'm protecting myself from what I know is coming?
It's a protection, but then that's the thing, though. We don't know. Now we got insight, and when the insight is strong, you follow your insight. It's strong. Right. But sometimes we don't know, and so what we don't know, we fill in with assumptions. So if you do this, then that equals this. And so for me, 1 + 1 = 2. I'm going. And this is the 2. Yeah. I'm out of here. That's a good one. Yeah. I thought about that just then. That's
that was good. This is the 2. That's the 2. That's the 2. Y'all got that from Herb. Yeah. That's the 2. Yeah. So, yeah, that's been kind of a struggle for me.
But I couldn't imagine. I mean, because you know, you have 2 kids, 2 daughters that are in the transitioning into those ages, and the protection has to be there. Yeah. Because, you know, and I see this a lot with students that I deal with now, is that, because they're 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever, but the realization of what you were exposed to starts to play out in how you do relationship yourself. And so as a parent, you know, it's important to be aware of, like, what environment am I giving? Right. And you don't want a situation where you got people with questionable character around
your kids,
because then they might take on that and not even be aware they're doing it.
Yeah, that's true. It's so hard dating with kids because you know, you have done like sexual abuse counseling, and I've seen a lot more of it now with kids that are so small. Like you talking about 3 and 4 and 5 year olds, and it automatically makes you, because you have girls, you're a girl dad, so you automatically just go to, you know, this could have been my baby, this could have been Dakota, this could have been Haley, and it's just like, and I tell people, most people don't marry somebody knowing they're going to sexually abuse their kids. You know, they love somebody and then they don't know the heart of really who that person is, and then that happens. But not many people go into it, so it's like, it's a gamble. Like, and I don't think everybody really knows what the signs are.
No, I mean, you got to think about it. And I saw this post recently, and as long as, you know, we've been doing this stuff, this just stuck out. But a person who is an abuser, they groom. And that's sexual abuse, that's physical abuse, that's emotional, that's, you know, any kind of narcissistic, you know, type stuff or whatever. But they not only groom the victim, they groom everybody. So that's the parents, that's the uncles, that's the mothers, and everybody's getting groomed.
Right. So nobody sees it coming.
Yeah, and I mean they groom everybody, so when something happens, it's nobody saw it coming. Yeah. In a lot of cases. Like, and I didn't think about that, but like when they grooming, they're not just grooming you, they're grooming everybody, even if it's watching patterns. Yeah. To see when my open space is, or to figure out people's weak spots if I want to be, you know, mean to them or whatever. Right. You know, you're grooming everybody.
And at ACS, I learned so much being there. I didn't understand what grooming was. Yeah. To see it in action. Yeah. It's like, wow.
Yeah, and then grooming essentially is just setting it up. Yeah. You know, so at the smallest level, we have like kids sexually acting out. It's, I'm gonna give you some candy in my video game. Yep. But on, you know, more intense levels, it's, you know, I befriend your friends.
Right. So when something happens, they're looking at you like, "Oh, what did you do wrong? Because he's this guy, and he's that guy."
Yeah. How can you do that? How did you mess this up?
Right.
And you think about, especially things like gender roles in society, and like how marriage is such a defining factor for women.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you finally like get that, it's like you should just be thankful at all times. And
right.
then like,
no matter
don't
what.
you mess this up.
Right.
Don't you mess like you. You know him. He a man. He gonna be a man. You don't mess this up. And it's
right.
like,
ooh, that's a whole topic in itself. Like that's the whole like. I think that is just like embedded in women. Like this is the role. Like that's the ultimate is being a wife.
Being a wife and bearing children.
Bearing children. Yes.
bearing children. I'm having them bearing.
You have become essentially a woman at this point. Like you have arrived.
As you bear him a son.
Sound like you come to America.
Bore me a son.
Yeah. So, you know, and I tell my clients all the time, stop getting stuck in the role of being a mom or a wife. Like you are a person before you were a mom and a wife, and that's how people get lost in marriages and things become mundane and everything's get, you know, everybody get complacent because you get in these roles and you think that's your life. Like you are somebody outside of being a dad.
Your identity.
Yeah.
Because people tend to think that when you get in a relationship, that your identity is a relationship. And that's just a part of your identity now.
Right. That's not your whole.
And if you don't have an identity outside of that relationship and that other person doesn't allow you to have an identity or support that, then you lose who you are.
Yes.
And it's the same with work. You got to have an identity outside of work.
Yep.
And working with students, especially like graduate students who are like full-time research type individuals, it's like, what's your identity outside of this? Because wherever you attach your identity to, you're looking for something from to fulfill you in some certain way. And it can't.
It cannot.
You know, it can't. Like a relationship can't continually fulfill you.
No.
It can give you some stuff.
Right. And people, I will always say, you know, well, in a relationship it's 50-50. And I'm like, that is the stupidest thing ever. So my thing, what the other 50 win? Like, you have to come to a relationship whole.
It's 100% missing if both of y'all 50-50. It's 100 going somewhere.
Right. So I'm like, no, you have to go into a relationship whole, and that person can't give you happiness. They can add to it, but they're not supposed to give you happiness.
Did you see that Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith talking about that?
Yes, I think so. Was she just talking to them, or did she have a guest?
I think she was just talking to them, and she was talking about her and Will, and she was like, "Your happiness is your responsibility."
Yes, I do remember that.
Period. And it's like, when you make it the other person's responsibility, then you do things to manipulate them or whatever to try to make them provide something for you that they can't give.
They cannot give it.
You are responsible for your own happiness.
Yes. Period. Whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And only you know what that looks like. So, you know, there's no cookie cutter answer to that. So
it's your happiness.
Right.
If you like being at the house and you happy, then be at the house and be
happy.
At the house and Don't hold the other person hostage when you do something. You know, it's just what it is. You know, it's like, and but your happiness and as you finding it. But anything outside of you that you're looking for that ultimate happiness, you're going to be let down.
Yeah. Because it's like unrealistic expectation. Women put a lot of expectation, and it's not just women. Men do too. When men have mommy issues and women have daddy issues, they bring that stuff into the relationship and make it your responsibility to fix it.
Everything comes in there. And I mean, that's where those gender roles kick in, because as a man, you're supposed to be a certain way, and as a woman, you're supposed to be a certain way. But if you don't fall in line with that, then something's not wrong with you.
Right.
And even as men, it's, you know, I'm not traditional in what men traditionally think or act or behave. And I don't have to force myself to be that way. Me being happy is just me being me.
Right.
If you don't watch college football on Saturdays, you ain't got to get into it in order to be a man. I mean,
right.
Just do what you do.
If that's not your thing, it's not your thing.
Yeah.
Why do you think it is that, like, the whole conversation about, and I talked about this last time, kind of with black men and women being single and black men cheating and, you know, because, not to recap that whole episode, but with the whole thing with Lonnie Love talking about black men and slavery, and I'm like, everything can't be like go back to slavery.
I'll tell you this much. I did a presentation on historical trauma one time. I do think, yeah, it was intense, and numbers don't lie from the standpoint of in the 30s, you know, 80-something% maybe of all black families were like nuclear families, both parents in the home.
Mm-hmm.
You get to the 60s and it's like maybe like 78%, still a very high number.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the 80s and 90s and it plummets to the point where it is now. And I think there's a systematic piece to it to where the homes were separated.
Mm-hmm.
You look at, you know, the prison like movement where they started putting black and brown people in jail.
Yeah.
It's mostly men.
Yeah.
When they created the housing authorities and the projects or whatever, and the men couldn't live in the project house with the wife. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a systematic piece of like separation that was created. And then I look at, I mean, this is also off, broad, but you look at our music and our music only depicts things that our music depicts.
Mm-hmm.
Like you never hear of a country rapper being killed or a country singer being killed, but you hear rappers being killed.
Right.
Like it's things. I think those things add to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe that there's a huge movement that started even before the Girl Dad hashtag began,
mm-hmm.
of black fathers and being more active.
Right.
Even if you're not married, but the activity level. And there's stuff that says that studies show that black fathers are increasingly more active than their counterparts in their kids' lives. But that's not the narrative that's being presented and celebrated.
Right.
It's the consistent narrative of the strong, independent black woman and a single mom with a son who made the NBA.
Right.
Kind of situation. So yeah, I think there's a correlation, between things that have happened in society to where we are now. And I think there's a rejuvenation of a lot of like just personal pride as black people.
Yes.
That has been missing for so long. And the thing is that there's no personal pride in one area. It's just personal pride in general.
Right.
And so you're going to have, like, I don't have any friends who aren't active good fathers. I had to think about it. Like, I don't have anybody. I know people breaking neck, even if they're not in the home with the kids, but they're doing everything.
Right.
I got friends of my cousin, like his daughter, who he is super active in, has a little brother whose dad is not involved, but that is not his son. Like, he is taking him on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so it's there. I think the narrative and the messaging is consistent in trying to push something different.
Because people don't want to talk about that.
No. Like Kobe Bryant and how he was with his girls is not an anomaly.
Right. But you would think that the way that it's perceived now, like, oh my God, he did something extraordinary. Yeah,
when I drop my daughter off at daycare, I see a lot of guys in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, so I think for us is how we repeat the message. I think that's important, like that we're not repeating something that's not true. Now it might be independently true for you as far as like your experience with your father, but I think about this generation of guy.
Right.
And what's happening.
Right.
You're seeing more of this, like, regardless, I'm going to be active.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Because now it's not a norm for people going to divorce court and the mom get full custody of the kids. That's not the new norm. Mm-hmm. The new norm is joint custody.
Yeah, because
dads are saying, I want to be a part of my kids' life too. I don't want to be a weekend dad.
Yeah, my cousin, he went through a situation and it was like, he was like, nah, I want custody. Like, I want shared custody. Like,
mm-hmm.
And he's fought tooth and nail. And I mean, he gets his time. And it's like, the idea that people just throwing their hands and walking away,
right?
That's not the case. I think that could be I don't have the research to show this, but it seems like a generational thing to where, like my dad, at that age, that was the age where drugs was hitting all these cities like crazy, and
mm-hmm.
Families were being separated because of that and stuff. It's like, but then you look at me and my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're all the way in when it comes to fatherhood.
Mm-hmm.
All the way in. Look at my cousins. We're all the way in. I mean, it's if there's someone not doing it, they're the minority, and they're the great minority.
Right.
It's not the average, and so So yeah.
That's the message. That's the narrative that's not being told.
Because I see every demographic of student is not lumped into one area where these black students don't have any kind of role models. No, I see white students. I see they'll have parents in the home, but they got terrible relationships with them.
Right.
Like just because you're there don't mean you got it. It's just you got on paper y'all there in the same house together.
Right.
Or their moms or their dads are like, they're divorced and they don't have any contact with them and never talk to them and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's not exclusive to one group of people.
Right.
But it's presented that way.
It is.
Yeah.
And so I know this is kind of off topic, but it still kind of relates to it, like how we're viewed as black people in a professional role. I've gone to court. I've been subpoenaed to court many times, but it's been like in not Jefferson County, maybe Walker County, Shelby County. Ooh. And so it's just like when I speak, and it's like everybody's like, wow, she knows what she's talking about. And it's just like, and the very first time I went to court, I was so offended. They were recording, and I think the recorder was not working or something. And the attorney had asked me about my credentials. And so when he asked me to repeat them, and I repeated them, but before he asked me to repeat them, he was like, I know, Ms. Johnson, I'm going to get you to repeat that again about the schools you went to and the certification you have. I know your mom would be so proud.
Like you done broke the cycle.
Right. So I'm just like, did you know my mama? Did y'all talk about that I was supposed to be a crackhead? Like
yeah, you done made it out of these mean streets.
So I was just like, this is what this looks like. This is what this looks like. And so even when I went to court another time, apparently, I don't even think that realistically he was trying to offend me. He thought that he was doing me a favor by providing the compliment. And then the parents like, oh my God, all of the attorneys were just so impressed with you. Like, they just like, wow. And I'm like, well, what was the expectation?
Unconscious bias.
Wow. and this is like experiencing it firsthand. Like, it's just have been like, sometimes I get upset, but for the most part, I just keep my head, I just keep working. Like, I just got stuff to do. I can't allow that to just bother me. But it's for a moment, I was just sitting like, really?
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, we're so skilled at that. Our ability to see it and still go. Because we always see it.
Right.
And, like, other people can be shocked by information. We're kind of like, like,
yeah.
It's like, it's sad, but it's not like out of the norm shocking. Like,
right.
You hear about a police shooting, it's like, it's like, before Facebook, it was happening.
Right. It just wasn't recorded.
And so, I think for us, it's like, and I always say, like, we're, as black people, and most non-majorities, but I know as black people specifically, we're culturally bilingual. That means we know our culture and the other culture, and we know theirs just as much as ours.
Right.
Because, you're always playing defense. You're always, like, reading and reacting.
Right.
And so in order to do so, I got to know you as well as I know myself. And that's a lane we've occupied for so long. And we make our moves based on other people. I think the trend now is that we're getting beyond that. Like, this is just me and okay. Like,
right.
Before it was, I'm from the country, so I can't talk a certain way. Now it's like, I did a presentation today, and I dropped a bunch of y'alls in there. And I'm like, whatever.
Right, right.
It is what it is.
That was like my biggest thing is like the way I speak. Because I'm from the country. Yeah. Like, and so I feel like we had our own dialect.
Yeah.
I talk about my brother all the time. I was like, Lord, he need to have an interpreter with him everywhere he goes. But then I hear myself on audio, and sometimes I'm like, what did I just say? Or somebody else who don't know me, they have to get adjusted to how I talk. And I had to practice all through grad school on talking slow. I had to practice on enunciating my words because we talk so fast. And so that was like hard for me. But then I had to be okay with a part of it because that's like who I was.
And that's the thing, like, you know, you can talk with good diction, or you can say, you know what, I want to improve this part of me, but it's because you want to improve this part of me.
Right.
A lot of time, and even still for a lot of people, based on your age and your comfort levels, it's, I got to do this so people take me more seriously.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with a guy when I first got to UAB, and we had gotten to know each other, and we had like a conference on campus. And so it's Friday, you know, it's wear your blazer shirt. I got on my blazer polo, my khakis, my chucks. I'm, you know, chilling. Friday conference, whatever. And then I see every black dude, and it's like a Joseph A. Banks commercial, like tie pin, you know, pin on the thing, flower, everything in line, suit kind of tight but loose at the same time. And I see my boy, and I'm like, hey man, is there like a black group I don't know about and I missed the message? Like, look at me. Look at y'all. And it was so funny because, and we joke about this now, and he was like, you know, he said, honestly, you know, people do it because you feel like in order to be taken seriously, this is what you have to do. And I was like, man, he was like, you know, I used to be like that. He said, now I just like to wear suits.
Yeah.
And I wear it for that. But, you know, and I thought about it, for them it's suits, but I mean, even though in the community, it wasn't a suit thing, but it was things where we did to kind of like make yourself, you know, more believable or more to be taken seriously, whether it was doing things to disarm yourself.
Right.
I can't be the stereotypical blah, 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 you know. And I'm at a point now where it's kind of like, yeah, whatever.
I am too. I am just like...
But that comes with age and...
experience. Yeah. Where you just like, you know, if you know me and my skills, you're not looking at what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. When I was going to court, I always talk about Starbucks. And it was... my staff is so tickled when I tell the story. And the girl is in the drive-thru and she says... Now, I go to Starbucks often, so I pretty much know faces. I had never seen her before. And she was like, well, don't you look fancy today? Where are you going? Where are you off to? I had on a suit. And I was just like, immediately, I was offended. Because I already knew where I was going. And I was like, I got to start this early? And so then I was like... court,
boy, they're going to be like,
No, I said to work. And then she was like, well, you must have a fancy job. This is what she said. And so I'm like, and I just sighed and I just went home. And then I came back. She was there. It was a weekend. I had on a t-shirt. There was no conversation. I don't even think she recognized me. I was in another car at that time too. So it's just like when I go to work, I'm typically comfortable. I got jeans on, a t-shirt. I'm not just looking like I rolled out of bed, but I would have kids. I look at my schedule. If I had like 5 kids in my schedule, we on the floor playing. So my shoes off. And so, but my clients know what I bring. So they are not looking at what I'm wearing to judge my ability to give them what they need.
And plus, I think that creates a barrier.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm, you know, if I look like your doctor,
yes,
then that can create an unnecessary barrier.
Yeah.
Not that you should be in there looking crazy.
Right.
But it's like having a desk between you and them. It creates a barrier or a power differential.
Right.
In the room.
Right.
So if I'm in here suited and booted, and the best you can afford is X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Then you might come in feeling lesser.
Right. And we don't want that. Because then they're not going to open up to you.
And that's one of the things, like, in my career, when I think about the different types of people I work with, it's, you need to feel like me and you, we here.
We're equal.
We're here. It's not like here and here. Like, I had a guy one time, guy was in his 50s, and he was mentally ill or whatever. But nicest dude. He used to call me Mr. Herb, and I'm like, no. You don't call me that. You know, first off, I should be calling you Mr. Secondly, we can have a conversation just like you have a conversation with anybody.
Right.
And I don't want to ever give that impression that I'm here and you're not.
Right.
Because I've been around counselors like that.
Right.
And it's not effective.
No.
I mean, it's not. I mean, for me, it's not. I mean, you do what works for you.
Because it's intimidating.
Yeah.
How are you going to be vulnerable with somebody who you think may be looking down on you?
Yeah, you're looking down on, that's why people think they're in counseling sessions, and it's so funny. Like, I got this on today, but I was doing a presentation, and I was like, okay. But it rained outside today. I'm typically in some high top Nikes,
right,
and some some khakis or whatever, and a shirt. And so, but today I just did this, for the presentation or whatever. But in general, it's like I'm working with college students. These jokers coming in pajamas.
Oh my God, yes. UAB is infamous for the pajama wardrobe. Right. Yeah. I learned that early on in school, like at a predominantly white school. I went to Spring Hill. Mm-hmm. When I tell you, I was like, the black kids on campus were suited and booted, like they had their best on. Those kids came to school with their pajamas on.
Man, they don't care.
No, they were just trying to get to work, and it was that the focus. We focus on. I think we focus on that because we're constantly in the mode of trying to prove something to somebody.
I got to work twice as hard to be considered just as much or get just as much.
Yeah.
And I think that has been true for a long time. And I think it's time to undo some of that messaging.
Yes.
Because for me and for you and for people older than us, it's like, okay, that's the thing. I think now it's like, no.
Right.
You don't have to be a part of that. And plus, you have more people like us in position to where you're not trying to enter in a place that nobody like you is already there.
Right.
And so I think we can undo some of that. Like, yeah, you can still work hard, but I ain't got to work twice as hard to get half of what you get. Absolutely not.
Right. and then the thing about that is too, we don't look out for each other like we should. In this profession, I have seen and been privy to firsthand how people try to cut you down to get the spotlight. Mm-hmm. And for me, I even came to UAB and spoke to master level students on how to open a private practice. Mm-hmm. And then I had somebody say, well, you're not worried about, competition? And I said, there is no competition because I'm my own person. So what I bring to the table is not going to be what anybody else brings to the table. If I'm always looking at what somebody else is doing, how am I focusing on my craft? So and that's always been the mentality that I had. And when people ask me, even my neighbor who's a licensed professional counselor in my office, I put him on game with different stuff, different providers and stuff like that. Because I just feel like with mental illness being what it is, everybody has work.
You're not going to run out of a job. That's number one.
Yes.
Another thing is that I don't have to lose for you to win.
Right.
What's that movie, Paid in Full?
Yes.
Everybody eats beef. Everybody eats. That's the thing. Like, it's not we're too caught in the either or.
Yes.
And it's not a scoreboard and you win, I lose. It's like nepotism been around.
Yes, it is.
And so why can't I participate in it?
Right.
Not to say, to my people out there that I'm just going to give people jobs. No. But at the same time, it's like I was fortunate to get opportunities when I was coming up, especially like when I was like doing my internships in undergrad and stuff like that. Like I was fortunate to get in some of these roles. And I know that it was like God and like a single person saying, I see some in you, let me da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
And the thing is that it doesn't have to be that hard now. Like there is more of an effort into like, okay, how are we diverse? Mm-hmm. How are we equitable? And how are we inclusive?
Right.
And so we need representation from a variety of people.
Yes.
Because people come with a variety of needs.
Yes. And so, everybody can't do everything.
Yeah, and it's not to say you got to just hire somebody just to hire somebody. Like we need a black man, so we got to take any black man on the street. No, you gotta, you want somebody good at what they do.
Right.
But it's you take the best person there. Right. Period. And especially like in our profession.
Right.
Like when I got to campus, man, a lot of people want to come into counseling services because it's like, well, it seems like it's all white women. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, first off, it's not. And I'm over there too now.
Right.
And so there's more representation.
Right.
And I think that's important. And it's like, and for this to happen, like I ain't got to push somebody else out the way.
Right.
In order to like, make some good happen. It's you can do good, I can do good, we can all do good together,
right?
And then we all look great,
right?
Some people think if you look good, then I inherently going to look bad,
right? So what can I do to make sure I'm up here and you stay down here? I hate that about that mentality about some people, period, especially black people. Like, it just bothers me. Like, it doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to cut another person down.
So I'm gonna challenge you right there.
Okay.
All right. And this is something to undo messaging. That's not exclusive to us.
No, it's not.
And so, everybody participates in that.
Yeah. I think it hurts more when it comes from us.
Because, of course, we feel like, everything's for the culture. So I think it's highlighted more.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's spoke on more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like the black business thing. Nobody says anything when Amazon messes up your shipping. But God forbid you order a screen tea for some black person. These black businesses, man. It's like, but yeah, Amazon messed up too.
Right,
order some from Wish and see what you get.
Oh! Or when you get it.
And when you get it. Like,
right.
And so I think it's not exclusive to us. And it's up for us to be aware of, we don't have limited slots anymore. Because it used to be, it's only going to be 2 black people here. So, number 3, you better get in where you fit in kind of thing.
Right.
That's not the space anymore.
Right.
I think for a while that was, and it creates that competition. I even talk to students about that, and it's like, there's only 4 of us in here, and they don't really take a lot of us, so inherently my competition is you now.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're the other black person in this program. And it's like, no, we're on the same team.
Right.
And we need more black people to come in, and more women, and more people of color, and more, people who are LGBTQ or whatever, to increase the representation from everybody. Not like I got to get you out of the way.
Right.
But I think that's a mindset that's been around for a long time, like, because we're all trying to get to somebody else's table and eat.
Mm. Yeah.
But you're a prime example of, I'm going to create my own table.
Right.
And then I'm going to bring people on who are qualified to do it. And I believe in that we're going to build this, we're going to build our table.
Right.
Versus like fighting at somebody else's table.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I think that's something we have to intentionally keep undoing.
You're right.
But that's just my soapbox on that.
No, I think that conversation needs to be had more than that. There's so many things that people shine a light on that shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we get caught up in that too.
Yeah, and we blanket statement stuff.
Yes. It's just one thing covers all. Like no, it doesn't. Yeah. But being in businesses, in your own business, entrepreneurship is hard. Like, I don't think people realize.
I don't want it. I ain't gonna hold you, man. Like, part of me does, and part of me's like,
you work harder, you work longer hours. Like, you never stop because you have to keep being relevant because there is so much going on. Like, how can I make myself stand apart? And I'm not the person. Some people want to be in private practice and just them. That's not me. I want to employ. I love to teach. Like, that is something that's in my spirit, is teaching. So that's why I got my S, so I could be a supervisor for people coming up under me. Like, when I've had 2 people to get their license under me, and it's just like, one of them, she still works with me, and I'm looking at her like, that's my little protege.
Yeah.
Like, she got it. Yeah. She got her own style, the way she does stuff. But even now, I know she's gonna want to be in private practice. Do you think I hinder her? No. What do you need to know? This is what you need to do.
Let me give you the game.
Yeah.
Everybody eats
set up. Like, so when she gets her to leave, she has everything she needs.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, man. Like, we don't have to set out and figure this thing out from scratch.
Right.
And
it ain't necessary.
It ain't necessary.
I did though. It was hard.
Let me tell you something though, and I think this speaks to something I thought about a lot lately, is that it's so much validation of blackness connected to struggle. And I had to get it out the mud. Well, you know what? I don't want my kids to get it out the mud. I want them to get it off the table.
Right.
It's already set up for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so I think that's another thing. Like, you know, we don't have to just figure it out from nothing. We are skilled at that.
Yes.
What's next?
Yes.
So you setting her up is like, now you ain't got to go through all these roadblocks. So if you had to start from here and get to here, but now she's starting at here.
Right.
Where might she go? And then it ain't she beating you or passing you. It's like all y'all elevate together.
Right. And I just don't look at it like, I'm not going to give somebody some information worried about them outdoing me. Like, I just don't have that mentality because everything I get comes from God. So when a door closes for me, that's Him saying, okay, Monique, there is something else for you to do.
Yeah.
I'm very, very, really intentional about when doors are closed for me. Like, I may have a moment, and that's what it is a moment, and then I'm moving on. Okay, God, what do you have for me? What am I supposed to be doing? I have a feeling now that's so strong when I'm out of order, it don't sit well with my spirit, you know.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I pray, and this, especially when it comes to like jobs, it's because I know me. I'm like, y'all finna let me in here. That's like my mentality, and so it's God don't give me anything I ain't supposed to have, and shut the door so hard that I can't help but ignore it. Because we'll look at stuff like this is a roadblock I got to get over.
Yeah.
No, this door is shut, and you're trying to climb to the attic. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Right.
And so shut it. Like at my last job, and I applied at ACS, I applied for the residential director thing.
Right.
And it was like, and I pushed for it because I felt like I can do it. And then it's like, y'all got to tell me no.
Right.
Like, and so,
I remember that.
But when it came and it was like no, and I prayed that prayer, and it was like, when it came, I was like, all right then. I think I took a day off work to collect my thoughts because my ego was hit a little bit. I ain't gonna front. But then then it was like, cool. And then I started just kept doing what I was doing, and then other things came available that I didn't even see on the horizon.
Right.
And so, but you know, not forcing ourselves into situations. If it ain't supposed to be there, then something else that is supposed to be there will show up, and you're gonna shine in it.
Right. Because even when you look back at that job, once you didn't get it, you just like,
boy,
ooh, I'm so glad I didn't get that. I remember the conversation. You like, woo, dodged that bullet.
Lord, I was like, not to say it would have happened to me, but it could have.
Yes.
Because you're filling some big shoes, but then also, I had a person tell me, it was like, man, that would have been a complete waste of your skill set. And you would have been good at it, but for what you can do, that wouldn't have been it. And I was like, But the competitive side of me was like, because that was like the first part of my career was like, get these positions, get these titles,
Right.
And I did a lot of that, and I ended up, forcing myself into situations I wasn't ready for. And after that, it was like, all right then, whatever you have for me, you have for me.
Right.
And it was the same with UAB. It was like, I ain't supposed to have it because I wasn't happy at my job.
Right.
But man, if I'm supposed to have it.
Because it just came.
Man, when I say it came.
Yeah. I remember you talking about it.
And so, and stepping into it, it was like, no matter how difficult it gets at times, something's there. Something's there. Something's on the other side of it. Like last semester was difficult. But then February takes place. And all of those things take place. But last semester wasn't as fluid as the other semesters.
Right.
And so it got tough at times. And the other side was like, all right, boom, here's his validation. Boom, here's his validation. Boom, here's his test. You know what I'm saying?
And
boom,
sometimes you never get that. And some people will be in this profession forever and never get a thank you. Never see the seed they planted, how it grew. Sometimes you'll never see that. So for you to have that as early as you had been on this job, I mean, it speaks volumes to the person that you are. And for you to just be shamefaced or just don't want to acknowledge. I'm like, Herb, really? Did you expect anything other than?
But I
because you don't see your greatness like other people see it. Like, you made me want to be better in so many different ways. Like, when the first time I ever really experienced rejection, like, people didn't tell me no. If you told me no, I couldn't do something, I lived for a long time on proving people wrong. Like, that was my goal set. And so I experienced my first set of rejections when I was at ACS and I applied to go back to graduate school, and I didn't get in. Mm-hmm. And then I think something else happened, and they told me no. I had never been told no, and it wasn't in my control to fix it. That was like an eye-opener for me. Mm-hmm. And so, you being, like, I don't think you realize, like, what the effect you have on people to be able to just say, you're okay. Like, you got this.
I'm accept that and thank you. Because part of me is like, push it back out. And my cousin said at that time, it's like, sometimes you see yourself in sentences and other people see you in paragraphs. And like, I know I do good stuff.
Right.
All right. And I also know that it just doesn't come with a lot of recognition.
Yeah.
And also I had to develop a healthy relationship to it because you heard the Enneagram personality test?
Yes.
All right.
My cousin talks about it all the time.
Yeah, so I'm a type 2. And so part of that is like, I'm genuine, but also like I can use that to kind of like manipulate feedback. Mm-hmm. And so part of me checking that is like always making sure like it's for the genuine intention. And so like, God knew I couldn't receive these awards 5 or 6 years ago.
You weren't ready?
I wasn't ready. Well, especially 5 or 6 years ago at ACS because I was damaged.
Yeah.
But before that...
You somebody to do that wouldn't put a picture on the wall.
Picture on the wall.
I was like, where are your pictures at? Like, why you don't have your degrees up?
And you was just like... that day, had to carry that stuff to the car. I was in front of everybody. I was like, absolutely not. It still ain't put. I said, all the pictures up in my office now. The ones you gave me and the ones I got from home. Still got the degrees up there. I guess when I get my license, I go get the degrees.
You gonna have to hang that shingle.
And so, yeah, like, then I wasn't ready for that. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, especially like with me checking my own intentions. Mm-hmm. Because I'm a check-in kind of guy. Mm-hmm. I call, check in, text, check in. But for the longest it was, I'm doing this, but I ain't getting it in return. Mm-hmm. As much as it was, I'm doing it for the sake of doing it. Mm-hmm. And it had to be like, you know what? If I'm not doing it for the sake of doing it, I ain't doing it.
Right.
And so, and then also, we talked about being counselors earlier and being human. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I don't care. It's just that simple. Like, I mean, I am aware of other people. I'm thoughtful. I have a sense of stuff. Like when something ain't right or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then there are times where it's like I do stuff or I was doing stuff, and I didn't care as much as it made it seem because I'm also like, and in return you should get. And you're so awesome. Thanks for checking in.
Right.
And now it's like, if God puts it on my heart, I do it. Mm-hmm. I don't hesitate. Mm-hmm. But for me to just drudge it up and make it up my own because it may not come from a genuine place.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I'm comfortable saying I don't be caring as much sometimes. If I talk and I do 6 sessions in one day, I don't be wanting to have any more after that.
Right. So people have asked me how have I been able to do it. I promise you, when I walk out of my office, it's like the day is gone.
Oh man, like the scales fall off.
Ooh, and my kids will often ask me, Mom, how was your day? And they think I'm trying to be funny, but I'm like really trying to remember like what happened. Nobody went to the hospital. Nobody tried to kill themselves. It was a good day. Yeah. For the most part. Very seldom do I have days where I come home with what happened at work. Like today was one of those days. Yeah. It was just a lot happening. But out of a year, I probably can count on my one hand how many times, because I shut it off. You have to. You can't talk to people, 8 people in one day I'm talking about, and I don't just see one population of kids. I'm from 3-year-olds to 4 to 5-year-olds. Mm-hmm. So I could be talking from sexual abuse to divorce to just depression to anxiety, just all across. Yep. So I can't afford to take that home.
Yep, because your kids don't deserve it.
Right.
And then the clients you see don't deserve it from one case to the next.
Right.
Because they don't know the person that just left.
Right.
And so, we're trained on how to pivot from one person to the next.
Right.
But then when I leave, man, I had a kid at the last job tell me one time, he was like, man, Mr. Herbert, I know you mad at me because he had hit me. Mm-hmm. He was like, man, I know you helped me out a lot. I know you mad at me. You're probably thinking about this. Da, 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 da. And I'm so sorry. And I said, let me pause you right here. I ain't thought about you since the last time I saw you. You ain't the first kid that hit me. And you probably gonna be the last. and his face just dropped. And I said, let me stop you now. That don't mean I don't care about you.
Right.
When I'm here, y'all got all of me.
Right.
When I ain't here, you ain't got a stitch of me.
But you have to have that. Yeah. Like, we would be insane if we took all those issues along with your regular day-to-day issues and you just put that stuff in a pot and stir it up.
Think about it. When you were younger in the field, you probably took that stuff home.
I did. I didn't get this way overnight.
No. I didn't have boundaries in the beginning, especially the jobs I had. I was doing youth villages, in-home foster care, man, and all that stuff. And it was just like...
I would go home thinking about those kids. Yeah. Like, what am I going to do tomorrow? And, how can I get through? And it was exhausting.
And those jobs don't have any boundaries anyway. And so, so there's no structure. Like, when I went from there to Western Mental Health Center...
Oh, my God. Who ain't worked at Western?
And my boy told me, Miko was like, he said, you'll notice, man, at 502, this parking lot about to be empty. I had never seen that before. I had been to group homes and I had done foster care. It was no structure to that. I looked up at 503 one day and I mean, it was a ghost town. And I'm like,
everybody was gone.
This is how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Even if I don't have a structured job like this, I got to cut it off like that.
Right.
And so, but that, it doesn't come easily. It comes with some bumps and some bruises.
Right.
And when I was in youth villages, my mom was sick and we knew what was going on.
Right.
And so you mix all that in with them cases and
oh my God, it's a recipe for disaster.
Phone calls. I had a foster parent call me one time at like midnight. These kids gotta go. And I said, what they do? And I'm like, and she couldn't really explain much. And then I'm like, you can't wait 6 more hours to morning time. Like they ain't that disruptive. I mean, they just, a little bit disrespectful, but they ain't bad.
Right.
Teenagers, they just, they're trying to chill. No, y'all gotta come get them. We get there, we moving these kids 1 o'clock in the morning. These ladies live in the country.
1 o'clock in the morning.
And she got like all emotional and was like, well, I think they should stay. I said, oh, no. They ain't staying tonight.
I done got up out my bed. No, they gotta leave.
Figure this out tomorrow. Y'all leaving tonight. And, but stuff like that, man, it's like, you know what? I gotta have these boundaries.
Right.
And, we get these boundaries with work. We also got to get them with our personal lives.
Yes.
And, we boundary people out. And then we got to, include ourselves in what needs to be counted for. Like, how are we taking care of ourselves? What are we doing for ourselves?
Right. Self-care is real.
And I think some of the undoing that needs to be done is, we blacks, hustle, grind, don't sleep, blah, blah, blah.
That's a lie.
Look. You got to take care of yourselves. Think about how many family members you have had that passed away because they were just overworked.
Yes.
And they died young. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't have an option. Like we have options.
We have options. We have so many options.
And another thing that I don't know if it's a soapbox, but it's like, financially, our biggest, it's been like leave your kids better than what you had. And this is important. You want to set them up, life insurance policies, reduce student loans, have a house that they can live in when they graduate so they can stack some money. Like financially, okay, we get it. But then from an emotional maturity standpoint, that's the next step that I see. Like, are we setting up our kids to be more emotionally mature than what we are? So they're not getting to stuff later in life that they can get to earlier. Because you think about some older people that and you people always tell you, man, you got the fun version of them. The version I had wasn't that good.
Yes.
But that's because they had some life and they realized some of the stuff ain't that deep.
Yes.
And it's like, why can't we start that process earlier?
Right.
So our kids are emotionally more stable. Now that may mean they feel more of their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. Yeah. Because you're going to deal with them anyway.
Right.
And it's better to get to them early than to get to them late. You repressed and and frustrated and don't know where it's coming from. And
yes.
Every time you talk about anything, you break down and cry. And it's like, we can start the process earlier, like emotional maturity. Like, you don't have to be a certain way to be a man or be a woman, or you just be comfortable, be okay, and being you, and you is good enough.
Because that whole thing, man, boys don't cry, and oh my God, I've seen it time and time again.
Because you don't know what you're keeping that boy from.
Right.
What if you're an artist, but you got him out there getting his neck broke playing football?
Right.
Because that's what boys do.
That's what boys do.
What if she like to play soccer and play basketball and do all this stuff that you thinking you got to get these dollars?
Yep.
I mean, like, that stuff, we can take those handicaps off and allow our kids to just be. Yeah. But there's a lot of fear attached to that because
they don't know what that be may be.
Yeah, and it hits your discomforts.
Right.
Because it's not as simple as you just shut up because I tell you to shut up and I told you to do what I told you to do and blah, 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 blah. Do you want to train people or raise up people who have a mind for themselves or have a mind to work for somebody else?
Yes, that's the question.
You know.
Because I had a little boy and he was in the playroom and he was playing with the dolls and the kitchenettes, and that's what he had seen his mom doing. But he was like, please don't tell my mom I play with these, my grandma play with these dolls. She's gonna beat me. and I'm like, I'm not gonna tell her. Like, that was a place where they're supposed to be able to explore and be free. And that's what they see. He's being raised by his grandmama, so he's seeing her take care of people and he's seeing her cook. So kids quite naturally model what they see. Yeah. But he also knew that she was not going to approve of that, and that was not a boy's role. He's like, please don't tell my grandma.
Yeah. And, you know, and that because that hits certain fears that we don't want to touch on. Yeah. And like, well, that's going to make him such and such. I'm like, no.
No.
It's not.
It's going to make him, when he's going to be able to take care of the house and clean and cook, you know, you think that's not a male's role. But, I mean, being able to, you know, you should be outside of the just stigma of you take out the trash and pay the bills and I'm supposed to cook and clean. Like, it's a partnership. So it shouldn't be like we only have specific roles we can do. I mean, y'all can't bear children, no, we got that. You probably don't want to. Anyway.
I had a vasectomy. That was more than enough. More than enough.
So yeah, I think a marriage should be a partnership and it shouldn't be stuck in gender roles. Like to do it all over again, I would love to do it all over again, but there's so many things that I learned that I would just do differently. Yeah.
How old when you got married?
Oh, I was 27. Okay. 26, 27. Yeah. So I wasn't terribly young. Yeah. But
I mean,
I feel like I was still behind. Like compared to like what's going on now, I was late. I was a late bloomer.
I be talking to some of these students, man. I'd be like, you just don't know how much of a late bloomer I was in college. Like, I know I seem cool now. Yes. But early on, you know, it's good I found my people early in college. Yeah. So I don't have to follow any kind of like weird pressures or whatever. But yeah, it's a partnership, man, because as a dude, you may not be good with money, so that you don't need the checkbook. Or as a dude, you might be really meticulous at cleaning. Yeah. And you know what? Go clean it all up. Right. And so, or when it comes to parenting, like, as the guy, you don't have to be like the enforcer just because you're the guy. Right. You might have a nurturing spirit, and that's okay.
And your mama may be the enforcer.
I know my grandma was. Yeah. I don't mind. She wasn't a nurturer. But yeah, I mean, and so we don't have to like, I think it gets down to like it's an either or thing. And in context, it all exists. Right. And how you navigate the gray and become comfortable in who you are as an individual. Because as adults, we have our own like resentments and things that we've repressed over the years. That takes us time to like undo and find our comfort levels. And you know, in college students, you see that a lot because that's of course a time to kind of like an age where you kind of like come into your own. And I think just the foundation of like love and you're enough, I think is so important. Like we got discipline down pat.
Yeah.
You know.
But you're enough. That was good.
You're enough. Like you're good enough. Like, and even though you may not have heard it, doesn't mean that you have to pass that on.
Right.
Or any form of it.
Right.
Because we'll think in a minute. No, my uncle say this all the time because I talk about growing up on a farm. He said, "You grew up on a farm, but you didn't grow up on a farm we grew up on." I mean, we had this other day. I'm like, look, I wasn't there for your experience, but I know the hard work I experienced, and my friends didn't have to do it. So for me, that's my point of reference. And so, but I think sometimes like we'll look at something and be like, well, you didn't have as bad as I did, so I'm somehow doing better by you. But they don't know the bad you had.
Right.
It's love, acceptance, compassion. You're enough. That doesn't mean you can't get better at stuff. That don't mean we can't correct and we can't nudge you in certain directions. But at the basis of it, it's like you deserve just because you are. Not that you have to then do something to deserve. Like you don't deserve love because you then did something. Like how does a child then do something and then they deserve love?
Right.
Like I love you. You're beautiful. You're good enough, and I can't have you doing this.
Right.
Like you know, a both and versus like an either or.
It's either or, and a lot of parents have a disconnect with their kids because they don't show them love based on behaviors.
Yeah.
I'm like, so what? And I asked the question, when last time have you hugged them? When last time you said I love you? But they just acting up so bad. No. So that's how you. That's the reward. That's how you show love based on their behavior. Like no, that's understood.
And then if it is, as the child, I don't know what the finish line is, because if we're doing it based on mood and you moody,
right,
then the goalpost is all over the place. I don't even know
it's
how to
constantly
score.
moving.
Yeah, and it's like regardless of how I feel, you know that I love you.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you that I love you, even when you don't want to hear it and you ain't listening. I love you.
Yeah.
You're this. You're that. You're beautiful. Your hair is beautiful. This is beautiful. And
you are enough.
You're enough. And that's something that, as adults now, we have to continue to tell ourselves. And I mean, I had a nice foundation as a child. I mean, and there were times where it was like, am I good enough? And not because they didn't make me feel that way, but it was, part of it was like the way I'm wired. Like certain things I'm looking for, or validations or whatever.
Right.
Or I'm emotional. I was emotional as a child, you know. Even though I got real quiet at times, I was still like, my mind was always working and wondering. And so, like, you know, you're good enough. And not thinking it's understood, but I'm saying it.
Right.
You know, like I remember the first time I told my mom I loved her. I shouldn't remember that, number one. All right. But that wasn't the kind of conversation. The love was felt. But one day it was like, "Ma, I love you," and gave her a hug. Like, because we weren't like a huggy family like that. You know what I'm saying? And the love was there, but also we can have this too.
Right.
Hey man, I love you.
Right.
I see y'all later. Hugs.
Yeah.
You know, like it's nothing wrong to add that stuff in.
Right.
And so like I always knew my mom about me. Like, it was not a question. But then like also adding the saying it was important. And like with my kids,
all the time.
Man.
Yeah.
All the time. And so even with my wife, like making sure I'm saying it.
Right.
Saying it.
Because you can show up as saying it still.
Yeah. And you can get caught in routine and forget to say it.
Right.
And but like saying those things and being attentive to feelings and whatnot. And being a counselor don't make you shoe in for a great parent.
Right.
It's not the keys to unlock, parenthood.
Yes.
And so yeah.
So you guys have heard it here. You've had coffee and combo with Mo and Herb, and we hope that you've been able to glean from it and you've enjoyed it.
This won't be the last one. This
No,
might become a series.
We have so much to talk about. So
we're going to talk about Oprah falling, but we decided to talk about it. You know, Tony Baker had a good one. She just like, skeet, deep, deep, and fell down. So,
until next time, you've had Coffee and Combo with Mo. Talk to you later.